Tyrod Taylor left his weekly press conference frustrated after taking multiple questions about his poor play. This coming only a couple days after Rex Ryan was non-committal about the future of his quarterback. I finally found company. Mark Schlereth in the house. Good to see you. Thank you for being here with me.
Absolutely. I feel bad. You're here all by yourself.
But I got
Guys
you now.
are out. Okay. All right.
I know. They got other jobs, things to do.
She'll be all right.
I won't get
She'll be all right.
She can be okay on this one.
Stephen A. Always with the tough love. Yes, I'll be okay.
She don't want to travel. She don't want to travel. She don't want to travel.
Okay.
She don't want to travel.
Okay. I can speak for myself, young man. But Max, I want to start with you on this one. Is Tyrod's issue with Rex or with the media?
Neither. His issue is with the $20+ million that if they cut him, he don't get. And Tyrod Taylor, I mean, you think about that. You know, it's easy just to get past that because these numbers are so large. They're abstract, of course. You're sitting at home listening to $20+ million. Oh, all these athletes make a lot of money. No, that's life-changing money. He hadn't been paid like that yet. And that money is sitting there for him. But if his brand, as we see with quarterbacks in the NFL, is so damaged through this process that not only does he not get that money, but no one else out there will give him anything approaching that, that's a catastrophe in someone's life. So I think that's primarily what's on Tyrod Taylor's mind. At least that would be what's on my mind if I were in his position, whether that's the media or Rex or anyone kind of taking aim at my wallet like that.
Well, I disagree with you, Max. I definitely think it was about Rex Ryan because on one hand, you're Tyrod Taylor. You're 27 years of age. You just busted onto the scene last year. And you got a coach that essentially threw you under the bus because in the end, he brought unnecessary attention towards you. On the other hand, you're sitting there and you know that you're no Tom Brady. You know Aaron Rodgers, you know Drew Brees or anybody like that. You can't come out and respond to the coach. The closest thing he said in defense of himself, there are a lot of things that go into any of us being successful. That's the closest he could come to saying, look, it ain't all me. He could have said dudes ain't running their routes properly. They ain't catching passes. I'm not being protected by the offensive line to the degree that I would like, et cetera, et cetera. He could have said an awful lot of things. 12 games this year, 8 times he's thrown for less than 200 yards. I mean, that simply cannot happen. You've got to do better than that. And especially when you want the kind of money that he's gotten. I would advise him to be careful because you haven't earned the kind of cachet where you get to bolt from a press conference because you haven't established yourself yet to that level where people are just going to shove that aside. The shrapnel of criticism can get even more volatile if he's not careful in that regard. But they do have the worst passing attack in football. Once again, their head coach is a guy in Rex Ryan who's approaching his 6th consecutive season where he will not have made the postseason. And his offenses are never good with the exception of last year. So I can understand the frustration. It's got a lot to do with Rex Ryan. But Tyrod still needs to be careful, Schlereth.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I think there's a couple of things that resonate with me when you talk about Tyrod Taylor. I think first and foremost, you're talking about a quarterback that is in an offense that, let's face it, we're going to run the ball. Rex Ryan, what is it? Ground and pound. And we talk about this all the time, coming out of the draft or in free agency. The biggest responsibility of a coaching staff, in my mind, is not picking the groceries, it's developing those. It's creating meals. And right now, you look at Rex Ryan, tell me, during the course of his coaching career, when has a quarterback had great success in that system? Even Mark Sanchez, who was drafted, they moved up to take him 5th overall. He managed a football team that was predicated on running the football with the New York Jets and playing stellar defense. And essentially people said it wasn't Mark Sanchez that took them to the AFC Championship. That team drug Mark Sanchez along with them. But it's your responsibility as a coaching staff to develop your players, to put your players in positions to win. The great ones are able to do that. The guys who hang around, they can't get that done. And I would say this to Taylor as well. When it comes to money in the National Football League, you'll never live up to the hype. There will always be somebody that's upset with the money that you get. The bottom line, you've got to quit trying to live up to that money. You've got to quit trying to do that, and you just got to go out and be a professional and take care of your business. That's what he has to do. But again, this is a football team. They're the number 1 team in the league as far as running the ball is concerned. That's how Rex Ryan wants it. They want to play great defense. That's what they do. And the bottom line is, again, Point to a quarterback, show me somebody that has developed as a great quarterback underneath Rex Ryan during his coaching tenure.
Never.
It just hasn't happened. So
it's not what he does.
Yeah, it's not what that offense is. So you can be critical of that kid, but put anybody else in there, and they're going to have the same result because you're never going to give that guy an opportunity to develop and blossom as a quarterback.
Well, Schlereth, let me tell you something else, too. We talk about the Buffalo Bills being a great, great defense. They're 17th overall, and they're 26th against the run. Rex Ryan's defenses in New York were considerably better than the defenses he had in New York. Last year, he gets there his first year. The year before under Doug Marrone, they had 54 sacks. Last year, they had 21. Is it time, Schlereth, that we start looking at Rex Ryan and asking ourselves, we know what he's not on the offensive side of the ball, but on the defensive side of the ball, doesn't he deserve more heat than he has actually received this year?
Oh, I don't think there's any question. I mean, you look at that football team, and this, in my mind, was a season of playoffs or bust. And again, I'll look at the offensive side of the ball, and all these coaches, you know, we talk about all these coaches getting opportunities. Most of the coaches that get opportunities to be the next young head coach usually come from the offensive side of the ball, kind of offensive gurus, if you will. They haven't developed a quarterback yet. And until that happens, you're going to put yourself in harm's way as far as retaining your job is concerned.
We'll leave it there. In a radio interview this morning, Bills GM Doug Whaley also confirmed that they've made no decision on Tyrod Taylor for 2017. Mark, thank you for the visit
You're
and
welcome.
analysis.
Always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. We'll see
I'm
you
sorry
on
the
NFL
boys
Live
leave
later
you all
today.
alone.
Listen, they got stuff to do. I
got it.
I'll see them on Monday. Giants fullback Nikita Whitlock's home was robbed on Tuesday night. And Whitlock told WCBS TV that burglars scrawled items that included a swastika, the letters KKK, and the phrase, "Go back to Africa," in Trump spelled out on the walls. Whitlock's teammate Victor Cruz had this to say about the incident.
There's a certain mindset of a person or of people that follow Donald Trump. If you listen to anything that he says, if you listen to the comments that he's made about women, or the comments he's made about minorities, or the comments he's made about, people of that he feels are somewhat of lesser value, they haven't been positive. For someone to vandalize someone's house and write Trump's name or whatever they wrote on the walls is just proving that exact fact that I'm saying, that people that may follow him aren't necessarily the most positive people in our communities.
Max, is Victor Cruz right?
Yep. Of course he is. Look, I know, forgive me for those who come to sports to escape the real world. I get that. I'm sympathetic to that idea. And as a consumer of sports and sports talk, sometimes when this stuff goes on, as a consumer, I'm like, okay, I just want to escape and talk about the game. But here's the intersection of sports and life and real life, and in this case, politics. Fact of the matter is that Donald Trump was endorsed by the Ku Klux Klan. That's a fact. I'm not making that up. And that there was an appeal to white nationalists. How else can you say these things? And that this is not the first time that something like this has happened since the election, and some reference to Trump was made, Trump country, Trump's America. And to Donald Trump's credit, he did, in a nationally televised broadcast, at one point say it should stop. That's terrible. But a couple things need to happen. Either he needs to do that every time something like this becomes public information, or if the idea is this is happening so much that he couldn't possibly, then he needs to address that too, doesn't he? I agree with Victor Cruz.
I don't disagree with a single word that you just articulated, Max. You're right. But I'm not going to stop there. See, the only issue that I have with what Victor Cruz said is that it implies that this stuff came about because of Trump's rhetoric and his willingness to appeal to that base. I would argue that clearly it existed long before Trump ever decided to run for the presidency. And it certainly was put on display when we had President Barack Obama inaugurated in 2008. We saw An elected official screamed, "You lie." Very, very disrespectful towards our president. If I remember correctly, that elected official was from South Carolina. We saw and heard our first lady and the first family compared to apes and beyond. We saw a president highly intelligent, highly accomplished, earned what he had achieved. Just throwing away to try to kind of stereotypes, other folks in America tried to throw in his direction, just bulldozed right through them, and they still came at him with similar rhetoric. And so my point in saying all of that is to say, I think it's a mistake for folks to sit up there and act like, oh, Trump did this. He certainly wasn't as responsible as we would like a presidential candidate to be in terms of the rhetoric that he was spewing and what it ultimately assisted in further inciting. But let's not act like it did not exist until he started running for the presidency. This stuff has been going on for a long time. It certainly went on against our president. And the fact is that it has and always will continue to happen. And it's foolhardy to believe that because Trump is the president now, now these folks are coming out they've been out. If anything, he might have made them feel a little bit more comfortable about it, but they've always been there and they've always been conducting themselves that way. It's just that it's a bit more conspicuous now than it was in the past.
Yeah, it's an ugly America, an ugly side of America that we're seeing. And by the way, in terms of emboldening that sort of thing or fomenting the kind of anti-Obama stuff based on things other than the merit, based on race, which was something I thought at the time, maybe this is being overstated. Clearly it wasn't. And Donald Trump, of course, was a major booster of the birther movement against Obama, which he later denied or kind of denied, questioning the birth certificate, et cetera. I would say that what we're seeing is there's a term revanchist, which means you want to take back stuff that you lost. And clearly, he's not president yet, by the way, Stephen A. He's president-elect, appealed to that idea with racist white people who seem to want to take back gains made during the civil rights movement, or at least are angry about it, or maybe angry about Obama. I don't know. I don't want this to turn into a political show at the moment. But Victor Cruz pointed something out which is undeniably true, and hopefully the president-elect will continue, as he did the one time, to, in strong language, denounce this kind of behavior from his supporters. Well, how do we know he's a supporter? Because he scrawled Trump after scrawling swastikas. So it's a admitted supporter. And the president-elect should in strong language, let everyone know.
Just coming out and giving strong language is not enough. He needs to be more active, not just with his words, but with his actions in denouncing such stuff. Because what the president-elect needs to really, really embrace and to understand that his presidency, doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell in being successful if he doesn't address this matter. Those ignorant, racist few out there very well may not epitomize everybody that voted for Trump. I refuse to believe that 60+ million people in this country, voted for Trump because they hate black people. I don't want to hear that. There are people that wanted to feed their families. There are people that did it because they didn't care about the social issues. All they cared about was the economics, and they thought change, and that, whether we agree with them or not, we can't be as irresponsible as the racist out there. And I'm just saying, we can't be, I just talk about how they feel. I'm not debating the economy. That's how they felt.
Sure.
What I'm saying is that we can't sit up there and be as irresponsible as those hate mongers, as those racists, in saying that anybody who voted for him, they must be like those people. There are a lot of people that don't feel the way those racists feel, and they voted for Trump for a whole different reason. And if we don't respect where they're coming from and be willing to engage in dialogue and debate based on that level, then we're no better than the racist that we're decrying right now. We have a responsibility to be that way.
We are better. No, that's not true. We are still better than the racists, but you're right. It is a lowering of kind of decent standards because many of the voters were also just people susceptible to low-quality information.
Yep. And I just want to add one more thing. Obviously, at the end of the day, after a long, hard day's work, you go home to try to feel safe. And I feel so sorry for Nikita, how awful that is, that he can no longer feel safe in his own home. And I hope they find these cowards that did this and they're punished appropriately.